Madam Chairman, we're live.
Welcome back to our Monday session, December 1st. Up next is our 11 o'clock, and we are going to be interviewing two of the Valley County Commissioner applicants. So, Sydney, you want to, if we don't have a preference, I guess we can just go ahead and call one. Heidi, you want to come on up, and we'll just start with you. Joel?
Yeah, typically you just do one at a time and ask him questions, pointed questions, and get to know him. You know, it'll be different today because, you know, Heidi's been on the P&Z Commission for a number of years, whereas,
Questions are a lot harder than the other.
Yeah.
right, you'll be brought to task.
Thrilled when you've been on it for a while.
You know, and Joel will be a get to know him type of interview with an exceptional resume.
Perfect.
Okay.
Heidi, come up and have a seat.
Oh, here, right.
Grab a microphone.
I'm used to.
Grab a microphone. We are very excited that you are interested in remaining. Sometimes we scare people off, so.
Well, a little bit of that too, right?
You have been a great commissioner, so thank you for your application. I'd like to start with just some questions, and then we'll just kind of pass it around and everybody can come up with it. So tell me what lessons you've learned so far from being on the commission.
Well, that's a great question. I think maybe not so much of a lesson, it's more just education. You know, being in development myself, you know, I've been through a lot of the process, and I think that's a big part of what I can bring to the table because I do think that's helpful. But as we go through each individual application, it's so unique and so different, and there's different ordinances that come into play and, you know, different items that we have to look at that pertain to each application. And so I think, you know, just expanding my knowledge and being prepared to, you know, speak on behalf of any application and feel confident about that and have the knowledge to back it up. Because I think that's a huge piece of it. You know, making sure that I come into every meeting extremely prepared. Sorry, I don't know if you guys know, I have spasmodic dysphonia, which is like a voice disorder. Cinda knows. But so anytime exactly it sounds like I'm crying or I'm nervous, but it's like what RFK has. I don't know if you notice it when I speak on other applications, but it kicks in sometimes.
No worries. It's no reason for, don't be nervous of us.
No. That's what I'm saying. It's nerves. It's an actual,
not
like,
nerves,
it's a brain disorder. Yeah. But yeah, so I think just to wrap up on that question, I think overall, the background, you know, I've had compared to, you know, being in front of a lot more applications and just broadening my scope of knowledge has been, you know, I think the biggest piece of this.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Commissioner Caldwell.
What are the biggest challenges you faced being a P&Z commissioner?
Great question. Well, I think it's hard. It's hard when we're not all in alignment, and I'm sure you guys deal with that every week. And I think really having to stick to the code, and whether you feel like an application from a personal standpoint should go through or not, that's not what it comes down to. It comes down to what the code is and what that supports. And I've really tried to do my best at that. I feel like I've, you know, it's hard to do that, especially if you're not in line with the commissioners, other commissioners, and that's only happened a few times, I would say. But again, going back to, you know, backing up your decision based on the county's codes. And I think that I've tried to do a really good job at that. And I think I have done that successfully, even in really tough situations.
Thank you, that is hard.
It is.
Our hardest job too when we're up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no fun.
No, it's not. That part's not fun.
You know, and I'm glad we got you on the commission, by the way. I knew you were gonna be a good one. When I was on there, that was the hardest part. It was when you would have someone on there that has different views than you do. This person may not want the county to grow at all. Well, unfortunately, they bring that to the table, even though they're not saying it. And it makes it a tough scenario, and it shouldn't be that way. You're there to do a job.
Right.
And like you said, codes, ordinances, keep your focus, and it'll work itself out.
Yeah, and being consistent with applications.
Yeah, you just can't throw your mind in there and go, no, I'm going to vote no just because of my personal views.
Right.
We're not. I like to deal with facts. Give me the facts, I can make decisions.
Yeah.
I got to keep my personal opinions out of them, especially if the facts are saying something else.
Exactly. Yeah. And it is. I mean, I think, and you know, in working through the comprehensive plan, I came into that about halfway through. And again, just expanding our knowledge and talking about what does this look like for the future of the county? And, you know, I can't sit here and say I have all the time in the world to devote my life to being a planning and zoning commissioner, but I do feel like it's an important job, and I do take that seriously. And I plan to be here and see this, you know, for a long time and raise our kids here. And I want to be a part of the direction that the county goes in.
Let me just ask you this one question. Do you feel like the county is going in a positive direction as a county commissioner?
I think in certain ways, yes, and in certain ways, no. But I don't think anyone could sit in my seat and say, yes, I think every single thing that we're doing at the county is just perfect. You know, I think there's a lot of hurdles that are, you know, really on your table. We just see a very small piece of that. And there's a lot, you know, specifically on growth. There's been so much growth that will continue. I don't foresee that slowing down. How do we manage growth? How do we have responsible growth? And I think there's a lot of unanswered questions. There's a lot of things that we need to continue researching and learning from other areas on what's worked, what hasn't, how do we handle that with this county? And I would say that's the toughest part. You know, that's so much broader than a single application.
Sure.
Um,
I appreciate your comment when you said that about learn it from other areas. Somebody else has already invented this wheel.
But maybe, you know, and I think a lot of mountain community towns are facing exactly what we are. And, you know, I don't think anyone has the answer exactly. And I think it's just, you know, taking in as much information we can and seeing what does work for this county. You know, that goes with infrastructure too. You know, that's a huge piece of this.
Thank you.
So that does kind of follow up. My next question was, what is your vision for the county?
Ooh.
Do you have something that sticks out in your mind that you think, if I had an opportunity, this is a direction I would go.
Not a specific task or vision. I think it's just overall getting more of a grasp. And again, that's just a learning piece on specifically infrastructure. How do we pair that with the growth? I think at least in this area, we're seeing Idaho Power come in to help with STIM night. That's huge. And I think, we have other issues with power throughout the county. We have issues with sewer. We have issues with water. I think those, without paths forward on a lot of those items, that's going to dictate quite a bit of where this county goes and what development looks like. And again, I don't have the answer to those things.
I was gonna say you're hired if you
Right?
solve it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm great. But
Solutions.
right, and you guys deal this on a daily basis and are exploring, all the different options. And I think that's one of the things that I've been able to bring to the table too, is I work with the health department. I work with Idaho Power. I work with these agencies on a daily basis for projects. And I think that is very helpful when we have applicants who are in front of us, who might not know so much about what that process looks like or what those steps actually look like with ITD, with, all these different groups. And I think that brings a lot of value to the commission.
So you've sat on the P&Z Commission for a couple years. You're one of the longer sitting P&Z directors at this point. Would you be willing to take on a leadership role moving forward?
I don't think so. I would prefer not to. If I had to, I could consider it, but I would prefer not to. Specifically, my voice thing isn't helpful too.
I don't even notice it.
Yeah.
No, I'm good. She's already got my vote.
You'll.
Have you had any problems getting to meetings? I don't know what the attendance record is.
No, I've only missed one meeting, and it was this last November meeting.
Perfect, thank you then for
Yep.
your attendance. That's
Yeah.
always one of the struggles.
I was like, I felt badness. It was, I really did feel bad. It was impossible. So,
No worries, you gotta miss some, you have a personal life too.
right?
so.
Yeah.
I have a question?
No, I'm good.
You and your husband still live full-time in Valley County?
Yes.
You're planning on to into the future?
Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
The conversation comes up about CUPs versus zone counties. Do you have an opinion on that?
Again, I think it's so dependent on the other big pieces of infrastructure and where we want to take this. And I think that I do think that the updated comprehensive plan does dive into that. I think at this point, I think CUP's work. If that'll continue 10 years from now, I'm not sure, but I think that process works right now. I think as long as we do it responsibly and follow the code, I think that sticking with the CUP model can continue. And I think that's where the compatibility ratings and, really listening to the community on an application, I think that does weigh heavily on, you know, a controversial CUP application. And that's where, you know, if you actually had zoning, you know, you probably wouldn't have a lot of those questions because you're in this zone, that's what you're doing. But there's so much spread out throughout the county already that I think it could really hinder the county if we got too specific with zoning at this point. I personally don't think the CUP process is a problem.
I don't think I have any other questions either. I think you've
Okay.
done a great job. When I listen to the meetings, you do come prepared. I appreciate that very much. It is something that, you know, sometimes your packets are as big as ours are, and it's a lot of work to get there. So I really do appreciate those that take the time to really engage and inform themselves
Yeah.
for the meetings. So,
Okay.
any feedback for the commissioners at all?
I don't think so.
Don't
Yeah.
disagree with you? You don't even want to say that?
No.
Okay.
I just think there's somebody on the commission that speaks up. Not everybody likes to open their mouth and talk, but you need that input.
You
bouncing
do.
off each
I
other.
think that's important. And we don't have a lot of that on the commission. And I think I think that's an important piece. And having that go back to being familiar with the process and understanding what regulations they're going through, what agencies someone's working with. I think that's where I have the confidence to speak up because I'm so aware of what questions I would have if I was in their position, vice versa. And so I think that's helpful.
Right.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Heidi.
Those chairs are dangerous.
Yeah. Okay, bye.
Bye, have a Merry Christmas.
Joel, come on up and join us.
Chairs are going.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for your application. We very much appreciate it.
Well, thank you for considering me.
Absolutely. Pull up your stuff here. You have got an impressive resume. I'm
Thank you.
excited to have you in Valley County. It's always great to talk with residents that have joined us and have an interest in serving. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And again, you'll just see the process. We all go through and ask some questions. So
Great.
yours may be a little bit different. So first of all, you do have full-time residency in Valley County and
I
have
do.
had for 5 years.
8 years, yes.
8 years. Okay, great. Commissioner Caldwell.
I get, my first question is just maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and why you decided to apply for the P&Z Commission.
Great, thank you. So my name's Joel Carson. 8 years ago, my wife Cece and I were living in Omaha, Nebraska. Our youngest graduated from high school. We pulled out a map of the United States and said, where do we want to live? And we chose Donnelly, Idaho. We chose Donnelly in part because we had lived in Boise and we were familiar with this area. Our children were all born in Boise, and then we moved to Seattle, and then we moved to Omaha. And so 8 years ago, we relocated here and purchased a home in Donnelly. And the reason we chose this area is because all the natural resources that we have available to us, the mountains, the rivers, the lakes, the 4 seasons. We love the 4 seasons. We love recreating all times of the year. And we just have fallen in love with the little town and all the people that live here. My professional background, I studied engineering at the University of Utah. I was a practicing engineering consultant for about 28 years. 10 years ago, I retired from a company that I had worked for 22 years. And I accepted the position as the executive director and CEO of an association, a professional association for engineers, where we help really good engineers to become great consultants by teaching them all about the business-related issues that none of us learned in engineering school. in addition to serving as the executive director of GBA is the name of the association, I'm also on the board of directors of a general contractor headquartered in Boise. So I have a little bit of construction also in my background. Historically, I've served on volunteer on positions with task forces, committees, other volunteer efforts to try to give back to my profession and to the communities that we lived. And I'm just very excited. I read about this opportunity in the newspaper, the weekly newspaper that we all look forward to on Thursdays to find out what's going on. And my wife actually read it and said, hey, this is something that you could consider because we're always looking for opportunities to give back. And so this just seemed to be a good match with my background and what the Valley County people need in a time of rapid growth and development.
She wasn't just trying to get you out of the house.
That also. I hope that wasn't too long of a response to your question.
Oh, that's great, thank you.
Okay, yeah, and you heard us just talking to Heidi about, what do you know about the CUP concept and the zoning versus zoning in our county?
Yeah, not a great deal. I have looked at the Planning and Zoning, the Land Use Planning Act. I understand the elements of that. I would assume that with a position of such importance, there would be an onboarding process where I would be exposed to the role of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and so that I would have background to make intelligent decisions based on plans that have been developed or are currently being developed. You have a big day planned today to figure some of that stuff out. And so I think that'd be part of my next month if I'm selected to get familiar with all those documents that I would be weighing in on as part of this commission.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
So on a commission, it's really important that we balance so that all voices are heard in our community. And so we do have different backgrounds and different, communications. What's your communication style? Are you one that will listen to other commissioners and be thoughtful, like to intercede, what?
Yeah, definitely. I understand the importance of collaboration, and there's not just one planning and zoning commissioner, it's a group of people. I like to make sure that every voice is heard. Also, not be shy about voicing my opinion. I recognize that there'll be times of consensus and there'll be times of disagreement, and I think that's a healthy part of this process. And so I generally sit back and let others talk before I weigh in, especially as I'm new to the position. I mean, there's a lot of time that's going to be taken to get up to speed with the role, and I would rely on the experience of the other commissioners for that.
Thank you. Commissioner Caldwell.
How do you balance private property rights with broader community goals?
Well, I think private property is important to me, but I also recognize that we're part of a large community, and so I think there needs to be a balance. I think we also need to constantly be looking forward into the future. I think the role of this is to make sure that we're leaving Valley County to future generations so that they can enjoy what we enjoy. So I think it's a balance that we're all part of this community together, but private property is also very important.
Mr. Thompson.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been chair of the P&Z Commission, so as Catlin, she took my place when I stepped down and ran for this office. And I remember 6 months into it, get a call from Cinda in December, says, everybody's quit and you're the chairman now. I hope it doesn't go that way for anybody. I'll never forget that. But I had some good experiences on there, and I'm the same way. I like people to speak up. I want to hear what everybody beside me wants to say. And I'm also a very facts-driven individual. So as you learn the ordinances and our comp plan, that's a lot of your learning that you're going to have to
Yeah.
put into your head, because that's how we operate. That's the only way it can make the CUP process work very well. Is you got to have all those ordinances and comp plan all working together, and what it does is it makes our job easier up here, because if you guys are already vetting all that on, application from some developer for whatever. If you guys are, all five of you are doing your job very well, then we don't have to deal with it up here. Because when it gets appealed to us, then it gets a lot harder. And so we really lean on the five of you.
Yeah.
At least I do. 'Cause that's an important app for being there for a few years, and then being up here. I really see the importance of what our P&Z Commission does. And
Yeah, I too am very fact-based oriented. I think as an engineer that's been drilled into me. I also prepare maybe too much for meetings. And so I understood from the last candidate that the packages that we received might be pretty thick, but I look forward to diving into those and realize that it's not just the meetings each month, that there's a lot of preparation that goes into, first of all, learning the role, but then as the packages are delivered, to make sure that those get consumed, and I have an opinion based on fact.
well, absolutely. And that's how I look at my position up here. I like to have facts to deal with. I got to keep my personal opinion out of it, even though we all have one. You try to keep them out of it, but if you ever have questions, that's an amazing resource sitting right there. And so never feel bashful about calling and talking, say, hey, what about this? Because there's so much to learn, so much to learn.
And as Neil was talking, my next question is, so a lot of times with planning and zoning, you'll have a room full of emotional people, and it does weigh heavy when that room is full of those emotional people. But we have an ordinance that a developer has met, and so that the regulations favor that. And so it's difficult sometimes to balance the emotions in the room and at the same time understand what LUPA says is our responsibility, and then also what is by ordinance our responsibility. So is there any concern for you of following process? I'm hearing you've got, with the engineer background, I've dealt with a lot of engineers in my lifetime, and you do seem to be fact-based, so
Yeah,
is there any concerns for you?
I mean, of course, I'm human with human emotions also, and I'm compassionate. However, I believe that there's pretty clear guidelines, and it's the role of the people that are on the commission to make sure that we follow those guidelines. That's what's going to protect the community and preserve this beautiful gift that we've been given for future generations. So yeah, I can understand that it's going to be challenging, but I think that it sounds like we have fairly clear marching orders, and we just need to stick with the plan.
To go back to what Sherry was talking about, when the people are in the room, they have opinions. They're not working on the facts that you're dealing with most of the time. So don't let that overwhelm you.
We do have to keep, we have to make sure that we're legally following direction, because if not, that's when the courts are involved.
Right.
And so that's when we have to back up our opinion, especially when it comes to planning and zoning. So we do have to make sure we're following legal process to keep the county out of hot water and out of legal issues, so. Commissioner Caldwell.
So having a P and Z commissioner that's willing and able to attend the majority of the meetings, as you heard, Commissioner Schneider has been on for a couple years and she's only missed one meeting, which is impressive. I missed more than that when I was on P and Z, but the agendas seem to be longer over the past few months, and quite often there's actually 2 or sometimes 3 meetings a month. They start at 6 and sometimes can go into the wee hours of the night. Are you willing to put in that time commitment for the meetings that happen once a month at the minimum?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the benefits of the role that I have is that I have the ability to map out my schedule for the most part. I do travel occasionally for business. And I think it's got to be a requirement for anybody that's volunteering for this position to be dedicated to meet the schedule and attend the meetings. So my intent is yes, to make all the meetings. I'm going into it knowing that that's a requirement of the position.
I think I'm good. I don't really have anything more structurally, I'll just say.
You have a vision for the county?
Well, I certainly do love this area. And I love all the access that we have to recreation. I love the conveniences that we have in our developed areas, like the open spaces. I also know that we're in a time of growth. And so balancing that growth, as well as taking care of the people who work and live up here. So my vision is that we protect all those things, and that we work with the growth and make sure that we have affordable housing for people who live and work up here. I'd love to be able to pass our home on to our 3 children who love coming back and visiting, which is one of the reasons that we live up here. And I'd like them to be able to experience this valley as my wife and I enjoy it today.
I do have one more question. You've been here, what do you say, 5 years now?
8 years.
8 years, okay. So you've seen all the discussion we've had with the impact area. Are you up to speed on that?
I'm not prepared to comment on that.
Okay, that's fine.
Commissioner Caldwell?
I think most of my questions have been answered.
What questions do you have for us?
I'd like to know what the onboarding process is. I think Cinda said she would put me through the paces, but do you have, based on your past experiences, what's the onboarding process? How long did it take you to feel like you were contributing to the P&Z Commission?
I don't know what Cinda's onboarding process is. However, I will tell you that we have 2 of the best civil attorneys in the state, in my opinion. Ryan Oakey, who is our prosecuting attorney, he is our civil litigator, and he does a lot of training. And so getting some time with him might be really helpful for you. He does do, I don't know if he's done any P&Z trainings lately. We do have some upcoming trainings that we'll be doing. So
Good.
It's kind of on the job experience, listening while you're there, spending some time with Cinda, going back and actually, because we record all meetings, when I became a commissioner, I came and sat in here for a year, but I also went back and reviewed the meetings, that I could. And now that everything's online, it's really easy to get in and actually, see the process and see what happens. But Cinda, is there a specific onboarding?
Oh, I typically invite a new P&Z commissioner, to the office and go through all the ordinances, the applications, the process, letters we've received from our civil attorney on ex parte contact, conflicts of interest, and that type of thing. P&Z commissioners actually are effective at different rates. A lot of it, I think, has to do with their personalities and whether or not they're comfortable speaking in public. the more comfortable they come with the speaking in public side of it, the more effective they are. So that's probably the biggest thing with a new P&Z commissioner is to speak up, ask questions. Call me if you have questions, when you're reviewing a packet, that type of thing. But it's a learning process that you have to work through.
That's actually what I was gonna add, is your onboarding process will be as deep as you want it to be. It's really a self-motivated type, well, she will go through all of it. It's really how much do you wanna dig into the ordinances, into LUPA, to watching the meetings, to spending the time, talking to staff. You can't talk to other commissioners about projects, but you can always talk to them about the process and stuff. So I think it's going to be as much as you want to put into it. And like Cinda said, the more you do, the more effective you will be as a P&Z commissioner. Because there is a lot to remember when you're making these decisions. However, I will say that we have a fantastic staff that puts together staff reports that are very clear, easy to read, easy to find the information that you may want or need to refer back to, whether it be comments from the public or comments from the experts talking about the specific application.
So Joel, have you sat in on any of the P and Z meetings yet, or watched them online, or
No.
haven't done that yet? That might scare you. But really, it's on-job training.
Yeah.
It's sitting there, getting your feet wet, listening, and throwing in your 2 cents and asking questions. Just asking questions.
Yeah.
Dad always told me there's no stupid question. The only stupid question is the one didn't get asked. So learn, and that's the best way to do it. But like I say, she's an awesome resource, and so are the people that you'll be sitting with. They're a great resource too.
I was not on planning and zoning up here. I was planning and zoning in Canyon County. And I think the most important thing that when I started anyway was just the listening aspect of it. Listening to the conversations of others. But mostly it was being familiar with your packet, identifying the questions that you had. I had a notebook. I always did that. I mean, everything changes, especially with the CUP process. Each application is a little bit unique, so it's not something that, you can state, this is all the training you're gonna need, because there may be something in that application that's totally different than any other application. And we go through that up here with all of the things that we do. It's an on-the-job learning experience all the time. But when you don't have enough information, we table it, and then you go back to it, and you go find the additional resources that you need. I think sometimes we're too quick to make decisions, and that's just human nature too. I have to make a decision. We really don't. We do need to spend the time to answer your questions, making sure that, what you have is all the information that you need to make a good decision. And so as a new commissioner, you might just say, I need a little more time, or listen and be empowered by those that you're sitting next to if they've done some research. It's always a good way to think, because I don't have to make a decision tonight. I can ask some questions and put it off for a little bit. But the prosecuting attorney does not advise the Planning and Zoning Commission because they are our advisor. So Brian Oakey would not be available to you, but I believe Ashley is available for the P&Z. No?
I'm the one that asks the questions.
Okay, so you just go through Cinda. When you have a legal question, then she will send it on to the PA's office and find an answer for you. Yep, that resource is available.
A lot of resources are available.
Yes, there are.
And then if you're selected, she'll give you a binder about this big to read.
A lot of code.
Those are all things, again, that you can, bite-sized pieces, because a lot of it is pretty deep.
It is.
I have to go and look at it every time I have a big decision to make. I have to bury myself in it again, because it's really difficult to retain all of that, so. What other questions do you have for us?
I asked Cinda earlier, when is the decision going to be made? And she said sometime in December to start in January. So it sounds like that's your plan.
We do have one gentleman next week that we will be discussing, and we'll probably make a decision right after that, so.
Great. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your application, coming in and talking with us, so, we'll let you know.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
You
Great
bet.
to know that we have people out there that are willing to serve.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay, that being the last on our agenda for this morning, we will go ahead and disband and see you at 1 o'clock. Thank you so much for coming in.